Ah, yes, the keys to the White House. And I really love ragging on this guy, but only because he won't admit he was wrong. Historian lashes out at disinformation on Fox News X for Kamala's loss, failure of his prediction. The man sounds like a paranoid schizophrenic. I mean that in a literal sense. It's not meant to be an insult. He sounds like he is detached from reality, fabricating things to justify what is not correct. So this is the guy, for those who don't know. He has this thing called the keys to the White House, where if more than a certain number are false, then it means someone's going to win. He predicted Kamala Harris would win. He did so because he believes the corporate press. That's lying to him. He believed it. And then he came out and said, it's everyone else's fault but mine. It's laughable. It's sad. So I've known people in my life who are paranoid schizophrenics. That's why I say this guy comes off like one. Now, it's not the most extreme. I knew people who ran away from home at a young age and were engaging in very dangerous behaviors because they believed that their parents were working with the government and other really weird things. They claimed that UFOs were circling them even as I spoke to them. And I'm like, yeah, this person is seeing something that's not real. Their brain is not functioning properly. And it's sad. This guy has an emotional mental breakdown. This Kamala supporter, he's clearly a Kamala supporter, has a mental breakdown over being wrong. And instead of saying, how was I wrong? He comes out and says, never before in history has a billionaire tried to spread misinformation, because it's a paranoid delusion. I'll pull up the keys to the White House and then we'll do a quick overview, because we've done it several times, but I'll go quick with this one just for those that aren't familiar. It's a prediction model this guy made where he's been right up until this point. Well, he didn't get the year 2000 wrong, but that one's kind of weird based on how the Supreme Court ruled. So I give him credit for being right in all the other ones. This time around, he was wrong. He predicted Kamala Harris was going to win, and we were all kind of like, whoa. I mean, he's not been wrong before. But hey, the bellwethers were wrong last time. The bellwethers corrected themselves this time. The first thing I want to show you is this. His statement after the results came in.
Look, my prediction for this presidential election was wrong. I own up to it. Right now, I am taking time off today, Wednesday, through my live show Thursday. My aim is to assess why the keys were wrong and what we can learn from this era and what the election means for the future of our country going forward. The show will be at 9 p.m. Thursday, November 7th at Alan Lichtman YouTube.
So he says he's going to take time off to figure out what went wrong. Well, if you look at the guy's Twitter account, he's clearly a liberal. He's not a far leftist, but he's very clearly a liberal. He had a post where he said, my wife says, why would people vote pro-choice but then vote for Trump? It's like voting for the price of eggs over your own eggs. And everyone's like, yeah, you're clearly a liberal. You don't understand the issues at play. Well, here's what happened. He did take time off, did a review, and then his brain shattered, and he blamed everyone but himself for being wrong.
Yes, as I said, things could go wrong. There could be unprecedented events that change the pattern of 160 years of history. That's what happened here. Two things.
Let me just pause right now. He is saying something changed the pattern of 160 years of history. Instead of saying, my understanding of what's going on was incorrect. No. Something so profound that 160 years of history was just altered dramatically overnight. My dude, that is insane. You sound crazy. Okay, here's more.
Number one, disinformation. We've always had disinformation, but disinformation has exploded to an unprecedented degree. You talked about a grievance election, but a lot of that grievance was driven by disinformation. Starts with Fox News and conservative media, conservative podcasters.
It's everyone else's fault, he says. Fox News, conservative podcasters, all spreading disinformation. I'm going to debunk this using his own keys, and we've done this before.
With tens of millions of views. But we've seen something brand new this time. The 300 billionaire Elon Musk putting his thumb on the scales through his control of X, formerly Twitter. It's been reported that his misinformation has had billions, literally billions of views. And this has spread to every aspect of this election.
And Twitter wasn't controlled by Jack Dorsey and Vijaya Gadde, where the intelligence agencies had back doors to come in and request takedowns of content. YouTube wasn't censoring information, namely around a CIA agent who blew the whistle on Donald Trump. That never happened. And Mark Zuckerberg didn't invest hundreds of millions of dollars in various election schemes. And also, Facebook never took down people who were making posts about a certain CIA agent who had blown the whistle on Donald Trump. They called it a whistleblowing. This guy doesn't read the news. He stares at MSNBC. If someone actually sat down with this guy and said, Alan, please just read the news for once, maybe he'd do it. This is why I say he's a paranoid schizophrenic. Jordan Peterson was confronted by a comedian, and he said, do you think that a business should be required to cater to certain individuals based on their gender identity or whatever? And he's like, no, I don't think they should. And then he says, what about black people? And Jordan's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, we had to say that businesses couldn't discriminate against black people. And Jordan goes, oh, maybe I was wrong about that. That's it. Jordan doesn't have an emotional breakdown. He just goes, oh, hadn't considered it. Good point. That's called sanity. This guy coming out and being like, this has never happened before. 160 years of history have been changed. It's like, my dude, that is a grandiose conspiracy theory. The simple solution tends to be the correct one.
There is misinformation about everything about the economy, inflation, jobs, unemployment, the stock market, growth. There is vast disinformation about undocumented immigrants, that they're supposedly killers who are out to get you.
Trende Aragua has taken over several apartment complexes. That's true. Laken Riley died. She's not the only person who lost her life. People have concerns about this. For him to say, listen to what he says.
In fact, studies by Cato and the National Institute of Justice show undocumented immigrants are the most law-abiding segment of our society.
That is logically false, my dude. Do you hear yourself? The function of being an undocumented immigrant is that you committed a crime, putting the crime rate for illegal immigrants at 100%. Sit down and shut up. Do you hear yourself? I'm not trying to be cute. I'm not playing games. If you are an illegal immigrant, you've already broken the law. 100% of illegal immigrants have broken the law. Now, you may be making the argument that they may be less likely to commit a subsequent violent crime. Fine, but some still do. So if the question is, someone broke into the bank, studies show that people who break into the bank are less likely to rob it than someone else. Or how about this? Studies show that people who break into banks in the wee hours of the morning are less likely to commit crimes against other people than somebody who walked in the bank midday. That's probably true. You know why? Because if someone breaks into the bank and no one's there, they can rob it without interacting with someone. But if someone walks into a bank legally but has the intent to commit a robbery, the likelihood that they hurt someone goes up. So the point is simply this. If somebody comes in the country illegally, they've committed a crime. If they then go on to kill someone, and they do, maybe at a lower rate, I don't care. We could have prevented that had we stopped the first underlying crime.
Crimes and violent crimes, less than half that of native-born Americans. It spread to the hurricane relief, spreading lies that hurricane relief dollars were being diverted to migrants.
You see what he's doing? This is the corporate press line. The actual narrative about funding was that FEMA was distributing cash for illegal immigrants, and they didn't have enough money for people who were affected by this hurricane. They literally said in the press, we don't have enough for another. I think the story was like, we have enough for one more disaster. They were giving people $750. Now, some people did confuse this. That's fine. But the issue literally exists. The distribution of money to illegal immigrants was from a specific fund for FEMA to give out. The distribution of funds for disaster relief was a separate fund. People wanted that to go in one direction. See, this is the robotic mind of liberals. This guy's thinking, but the money was allocated so we couldn't do anything with it. Hey, I'll tell you what, I got a budget for my company where it's like, here's a marketing budget, here's a food budget. I can actually say, I'm going to move my marketing budget to the food budget. It's human endeavors and behaviors. You misunderstand. This guy lacks the ability to understand. We are people. We make decisions. Most people were upset that money was going to illegal immigrants for any reason, and it should have gone to disaster relief. They don't care how it was allocated in Congress.
It's lies about the Ukraine war, that somehow Ukraine was responsible for having one of the world's great powers invade a third or fourth rate power.
You see, everything he's saying is MSNBC, CNN talking points. Ukraine had Viktor Yanukovych as their president. I believe his name, right? Viktor Yanukovych. And he was ousted in I guess you'd call it, I don't know if you'd call it a coup, an insurrection, I suppose. The country was split between opening up to the EU or maintaining its trade with Russia. Yanukovych was middle of the road and was trying to negotiate. After the Euromaidan protests, he was ousted, fled to Russia, and then a new government came in. This government was pro-West. Then Russia wanted to maintain access to the through the Donbass to Crimea, so they invaded. I'm not seeing narratives where people on the right are saying Ukraine is at fault for being invaded. He's making that up because he watches MSNBC and CNN.
And, you know, as scholars have shown, once you dissolve truth, democracy dissolves along with it.
This is Cope and Seethe. This guy's poor delusions. Here's the 13 keys to wrap this up. The system consists of 13 true and false statements. And if 5 or fewer keys are false, this indicates political instability and the incumbent party is predicted to win the election. If 6 or more are false, it indicates a political earthquake and the incumbent party will lose. Kamala Harris was the incumbent party. This man believed that there were 5 or fewer false keys. Let me actually pull up the keys to the White House and show you Alan Lichtman's full assessment. If I can find this archive, Harris will beat. Let's play this game. The first thing I want to do is I want to show you what this paranoid schizophrenic man, who is completely out of touch with reality. I'm going to show you his keys, and I'm going to lay it down as I see them. Party mandate. After the midterm elections, the incumbent party holds more seats in the House. False. The Republicans won the majority. 1. No primary contest. There is no serious contest for the incumbent party nomination. False. There was. RFK Jr. and Dean Phillips, but they were blocked by the DNC. Now, he can make the argument that there was no primary contest and it doesn't matter if it's procedural or otherwise, meaning I view this as, is there an attempt at a primary contest showing disdain for the party? And there was. He's making the argument that it doesn't matter if there's disdain. What matters is the machine stomps its fist and says, we're not going to let you have one. No, that's false. There was RFK Jr. They booted him, and Dean Phillips. No third party. There is no significant third party or independent campaign. To be fair, I think he's saying at the time of the election. But considering sentiment, if the goal is to indicate a political earthquake, then we need to consider whether or not there is a serious third party. There was. After the primary contest, there was. RFK Jr. That's 3 false. We're 3 of 3. Or I'm sorry, we're I skipped one. Number 3 is incumbent seeking re-election. The incumbent party candidate is a sitting president. False. So right now, for the first 4 keys, we have 4 false. 2 more falses and Trump's going to win. Strong short-term economy. The economy is not in a recession during the election. Now, we can play procedural or actual. Actual numbers, there was no recession. However, the issue at hand, and I'll cite Sam Cedar, was that rich people were making lots of money and poor people were not. Wages were not outpacing inflation. So people felt like the short-term economy was bad. They'd go to the grocery store and butter was $7. I'm going to say false. 1 more and Trump wins. Strong long-term economy. Real per capita economic growth during the term equals or exceeds mean growth during the 2 previous terms. Because this is a hard metric, I'm going to go and I give it to him. That's fine. We'll say it's true. 7, major policy change. The incumbent administration affects major changes in national policy. Kamala Harris said, I wouldn't do anything differently. There it is. 6 false. Trump wins. By number 7 in the keys, Trump wins. Number 8, no social unrest. False. There was. The pro-Palestine protests had been going on for like a year. And this was a major turmoil in the party. That's 7 false. 9, no scandal. The incumbent administration is untainted by major scandal. False. Afghanistan and the transfer of the soldiers who lost their lives. The Afghanistan scandal was massive. That's where Joe Biden's approval rating collapsed. And he checked his watch at the ceremony. 8 false. We then have no foreign or military failure. The incumbent administration suffers no major failure. False. Afghanistan major failure. 9 false. Trump wins. 11. The incumbent administration achieves a major success in foreign or military affairs. False. They never did. Afghanistan was a blight. That's 10 false out of 11. 12, charismatic incumbent. The incumbent party candidate is charismatic or a national hero. False. Kamala Harris was not that. We are now at 11 of 12. 13, uncharismatic challenger. The challenging party candidate is not charismatic or a national hero. False. I would say, in my personal opinion assessment, 12 of 13 keys were false. It was so obvious that Trump was going to win based on his metrics. We could have predicted a Republican sweep. Here's what he said. Fascinating. So the first one, party mandate, was obviously false. He said that there was no serious contest for the incumbent party nomination. RFK didn't exist. Dean Phillips didn't exist. Nope, they weren't serious. That's an opinion statement. Okay, fine. Incumbency. He admitted Kamala Harris is not the incumbent party. There is no significant third party or independent campaign. RFK Jr. was at 10+%. In some polls, he was at 15 to 20. From that shows a political earthquake. He said true. He said the short-term economy was good. He said the long-term economy was good. He said that the incumbent administration affects major changes in national policy. Kamala Harris did 2 interviews where she said she would change nothing. What is this guy watching? Social unrest. No protests. You didn't see all of the pro-Palestine protests, anti-Israel protests? Scandal. He said there was no scandal. He said the incumbent is a charismatic national hero. False. He admitted that one. He said the challenging party candidate is not charismatic. True. He said Trump was not charismatic. And then he said the foreign military failure or success are irrelevant because we've already determined there's not enough left for Trump to even win. This guy is a paranoid I'm not saying to be mean. I'm saying he's a paranoid, delusional guy. He could not accept that he was wrong. So instead, he says, never before in 160 years has a wealthy person tried to sway an election. That's right. William Randolph Hearst, the era of yellow journalism, George Soros, the Koch brothers, none of these people exist. Mark Zuckerberg, Bezos, they're not real people. They've never tried anything in politics, never made a single donation. He can argue, well, but the disinformation because of Elon was huge. Facebook was bigger. Facebook's been massive. This guy cannot understand what is happening around him. He needs an intervention. I don't know if it can be brought back to reality. Some people maybe just can't. But I tell you what, when we go through the list, I think it was actually obvious that we'd see a sweep. 12 of 13 can said to have been false. And you know what? The only one I gave him was strong long-term economy. Right now, they are forecasting a recession. Maybe it's because Trump won. Fine. But if that's the case, we are looking at 13 of 13 false. A major political earthquake that could only have resulted in the victory of Donald Trump. So why can't he accept it? Why can't any of these Democrats accept it? They've got the movement now where they're claiming Elon cheated. Let me tell you, my friends, back in 2020, Trump lost. And he likely lost because of ballot harvesting measures and COVID lockdowns. Gallup polled people and said, what's the biggest issue? COVID. Who's the better party? Democrats. They won. That's it. Skateboarders went out and voted, and they voted Democrat. And who cares about skateboarders? Right. They don't pay attention to politics. These Democrats filled skate parks with sand, famously. And so skateboarders were pissed off, and they said, I don't want to live this way. We need some kind of change. They voted Democrat. I'm glad it happened. I really am. Because if Trump got reelected, he'd have the same garbage administration. But now that Trump has been given 4 years where they tried everything to shut him down, we're getting Matt Gaetz and Tulsi Gabbard. We are now going to see actual change. And oh boy, I'm ready for it. Donald Trump needed this period so that he could recoup, we could come together, rise up as the American people, and then Trump would bring about an administration that will not stage a quiet coup against the popular mandate. Alan, for the love of all that is holy, you need to stop watching CNN. You sit there saying Fox News is disinformation. Fact check it. When they make a claim, search it on Google. I tell you this, we here at Timcast, we use the New York Times and CNN. We just fact check them and throw away the ones when they're fake news. Or we call out the obvious manipulation in the articles. This guy just sits there staring at the TV and it's fried his brain. But I'll wrap it up there, my friends. Smash the like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Become a member over at timcast.com to join the movement. We got more segments coming up. Stick around and we'll see you all shortly.